I have been testing out Logitech MX Mechanical and MX Mechanical Mini keyboard in my daily workflow for the past few weeks, and I have some thoughts about them. So this is going to be the full review for these keyboards. Let's find out what I think about them. This is ArtIsRight. Before we start, subscribe if you're new and hit on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload cool new videos like this. Logitech sent me these for review. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Along with these two mechanical keyboards, they have also released an updated MX Master 3S mouse as well. However, I am going to review this in a separate video because there's a lot to say about the mouse and the keyboard, so let's just really focus on the keyboard for this specific video. These keyboards are part of the Logitech Master series, which are made for a creative pro like myself and many of you watching this. What Logitech have done is extend their expertise from creating gaming mechanical keyboard, and they have brought this over to the creative pro market. Using these keyboards for the past few weeks really bring back a lot of nostalgia from the turn of the century, the early 2000s, when majority of keyboards back then are still mechanical. They're a thick keyboard, but they feel really great, and some of them are still using the connection, for example, serial or PS2. So that is really going back in time. USB was just starting to come out. Since then, what we have been doing is trying to slim down our keyboard so much, and going back to these, like I said, it just feels really great. Now, if you're familiar with mechanical keyboard, there are a big community surrounding this. You can custom build your own, you can buy all the different parts, you can even solder your own keyboard, which is too much work for me. Or you can hire someone to do this for you, and you can get a keyboard that costs as high as $5,000 or more. Personally, I can't afford that for a keyboard, nor can I justify it. However, there are many brands out there as well that creates keyboard, these type of mechanical ones, at a fairly reasonable price. What I like about Logitech in general is their integration. For instance, it comes with a dongle. And we may not think much about this, however, this dongle allows you to place this antenna much closer to the device that you're using. Rather than using the machine built in Bluetooth, for example, I have a laptop. I can set this fairly close to my machine. However, if I have a desktop and I have it in a further away location, if I'm relying on the built-in Bluetooth antenna on the machine, sometimes the signal doesn't go through really well, or there are a lot of interference. Having this, being able to place this pretty much really close to my keyboard, my mouse, whether it's on a hub or a USB extender cable, works really great for that. These keyboards are also compatible with Logi Option Plus, which is a program that you can go in and customize keyboard commands based on specific application they're using. Furthermore, what you can also do is sync these settings up to the cloud so that when you switch machine, you just download it and everything just works. So I'm going to show you more about that later because I think that is really cool. But let me put it this way. There are very few other mechanical keyboard out there that can offer this type of integration and this holistic package, and that's the reason why I really like these keyboards. And for full disclosure, I have been using Logitech keyboard, and I have been purchasing their keyboard for a long time. Before this, I have used the Logitech Craft keyboard, and before that, I was using the Apple one. But going to the Logitech Craft, being able to customize the key, that was a big winner for me. Now, talking about between these two sizes for just a moment here. After using it for quite some time, I prefer the full-size keyboard more. As I mentioned, I have been using the MX Craft and the full-size Apple Magic Keyboard before this, so having the numpad on the side is something that is really handy for me. I also love the fact that there is a button to just call up the calculator, and I can just type in the numbers and do the calculations right away without having to think too much about it. So that is something that really works for me. And going to the mini version where it lacks, for example, the numpad, for me, this is a little bit tight. It's a little bit difficult to use, but if you have a smaller desk, for instance, this is going to be perfect for that. Now, in addition to that, the reason why I prefer this more to the one with the number pad is because I've been doing some more data entry or number entry lately, and this makes it super convenient to do so. Obviously, these are really going to be up to you and depends on what you want. Let's first talk about the design. The key has a 19mm pitch, and they are a low profile key. If you look at the keyboard, the keys themselves float on top of the keyboard. On the bottom, you have a plastic frame, and on the very top of the keyboard itself, there is an aluminum dark gray frame that's on top of the thing that is surrounding the key. So it does add a great feel to it, and it does add that contrasting color that you can see right away. Now, what I really like about these keys in general and the way how they have designed is that the keys and the switch and everything just float on top of these aluminum frames. You can see through them. It's really easy to clean out the dust and particles between these keys. This is much better than the other keyboard that I've seen before, where the keyboard itself have wells that are cut in so that the key would go down into, because that ends up becoming a well for a lot of dust and, particles to really go into. Another thing about these two is that you don't have to worry about the keys getting stuck over time because the dust's really going in there or anything being sticky. So I really like this design for a lot of reasons. On the top right of this keyboard, there is a USB-C connection for charging and also a power switch. The keyboard also comes with a USB-C to USB-A for charging and also their new Bolt Dongle, which uses a Bluetooth technology instead of the previous unifying 2.4 gigahertz wireless frequency. This is going to be more secure and also is less prone to any wireless signal interference as well. And with this in mind, there are a few things we have to talk about. The USB-C on this keyboard is really meant for charging only. You can't really plug in this to your computer and expect it to run it as a wired keyboard. It doesn't work that way. So in order to link the keyboard to the machine, you either have to use the Bolt Dongle or the Bluetooth signal that is built into your computer in order to get that running. However, when the keyboards get older and the battery doesn't hold charge as well anymore, you may have to run it as a wired keyboard, meaning that you have to leave this charger cable plugged in all the time. However, you're still going to be using the wireless signal to communicate between the keyboard and the computer. A few other things about this too is that even though in their packaging there is instruction on how to open the keyboard up and take the battery out, there is really no easy compartment so you can replace the battery. So this is one of those things that over time you're going to have to really think about, replacing the battery or replacing the keyboard altogether. Now let's talk about the Bolt Dongle. It is not compatible with the previous generation unifying dongle. You can use the Bolt Dongle that came with your device. You can plug it in without installing the software and it will work. However, if you want to pair up to 6 devices to the Bolt Dongle, what you have to do is download the Bolt software and install on your system in order for you to pair that. You cannot use the unifying software with the Bolt Dongle. It doesn't work together. It will not see the dongle whatsoever. This keyboard also has the new Logitech Option Plus software, which is different, by the way, from the Logitech Option software that have come before it. The overall interface and the feel of it is very similar. You can go in and customize things the same way. However, what you cannot do is take the customization from Logitech Option and transfer it to Logitech Option Plus. And that was one of those things that I quip about a little bit when I was really setting this up, because I have so many different programs with customized keys already programmed into the Logitech Option. Well, I tried uploading to the cloud. That option didn't work because what Logitech Option is doing is looking for the Logitech Option specific customization, which is a big bummer. I'm hoping that, sometime down the road, they may be able to figure out a way to integrate these in together, because I think that would be really awesome. And the other thing too is that I hope they don't update the software very often. This way we don't have to go through and reset everything up again. These keyboards can be paired with up to 3 different machines, and you can easily switch between them. There are keys on the very top, 1, 2, and 3, and you can just literally press those buttons and it will switch over. This, however, is unlike the MX Master mouse that the buttons are on the bottom, which I find a little bit annoying. And what I really think Logitech should do is make the keyboard and the mouse in a way pair together so that when you switch, for example, the keyboard by pressing number 1, 2, or 3 to another computer, that the mouse would automatically go with it. I think this would be really great if they can do that. So fingers crossed, let's hope that integration will come at some point in the future. But for now, what you have to do is press the number on the keyboard that corresponds with the computer you want to use, and you also have to flip the mouse over and do that on the mouse as well. Now for this keyboard, there are various key integration functions at the very top that I really like. Some of them are the emoji keys. There's a screen capture, a mute, a play pause, a fast forward, rewind, sound control. And I mean, these keys on the very top brings the control of it very on par with the Apple Magic Keyboard experience. The only thing that this keyboard doesn't have is the Touch ID, and that's something that will probably never happen, although one can dream, right? I definitely want that feature to come, if possible, but I don't think Apple is going to release a Touch ID feature for any of these keyboards, so that's one thing that is missing from it. The keyboard have a smart illumination feature which will sense your hand as you're approaching it. It will illuminate the keyboard up based on the setting that you choose, and then afterwards, after a period of idle, it will turn the light off. There are also 6 dynamic lighting effect modes. So some of them are static, breathing, contrast, wave, random, and reaction, all customizable with the Logitech Option Plus app. So if you don't download the Logitech Option Plus app, you're not going to see these. So let's have a look quickly at what these lighting effects look like. Now that you have seen what each individual lighting effect looks like, let's talk about the keys themselves. It comes in dual color. This makes peripheral typing very easy, so if you glance down every now and then, you can easily place your keyboard where you want it to go. It also works with many major operating systems: Mac, Windows, Chrome, Linux, iOS, iPad, and also Android. The battery, Logitech claims that this will last up to 15 days at full charge when you're using the LED, and up to 10 months with the backlight turned off. I mean, I haven't had the keyboard for that long. It just released, so I wouldn't really know. But based on my uses so far, without even it charging it fully, the battery does last quite some time, and I'm really happy with it. The keyboard is also designed with sustainability in mind, using plastic parts made from post-consumable recyclable PCR plastic. 45% of it is being used in the MX Mechanical keyboard, and 47% is used in the MX Mechanical Mini. For both of these keyboards, there are 3 key types you can choose from: a tactile quiet brown key, a linear red key, and a clicky blue key. For my full-size keyboard, Logitech has sent me the tactile quiet brown key, and after using this for a while, I prefer the tactile much more because it offers a different bounce when you type down and when it comes up, and it feels really great. The keyboard is also fairly quiet as well. Whereas on the red key, it's also still quiet. However, the key does just travel linearly, obviously, because in the name red key, linear, right? So it just goes up and down equally, and I prefer the tactile feel of the brown key a lot more after using this. Obviously, your preferences are going to be different, and you might want to consider getting a mechanical key sample, for instance, just to try out. However, I will also say that just trying to press a few keys, it gives you an idea for what you may or may not like. But here's the thing: it probably will not replicate the experience of using the keyboard on a daily basis, so that's just something to keep in mind. The mini one comes with a linear red key, and as I mentioned, I don't really like this as much. The key feels good, but the spring is pretty much just the same up and down, and there's not a lot of feedback that I get from it. So personally, like I said, I prefer the brown key a lot more. And there's also the clicky blue, which I do not have for testing in my studio. However, let me put it this way: I have been on multiple different phones and conference calls before with people that are using the really clickety key, and you definitely hear. So if you want to have a quieter keyboard but also get a mechanical feel, I think the brown or the red is definitely the way to go, because otherwise everyone around you or even on the call is going to hear you as you type. So for this Bolt and Logitech Option Plus demo, what I'm going to do is show you how to pair a device with Logitech Option Plus. So I have the program launched right now, and when you initially install the program, if you are on a Macintosh system, it's going to ask you to enable permission in order for the program to work and also enable the use of Bluetooth. Go through all those processes, otherwise it would not function on a Mac system. If you're on a PC, you generally should be okay. Now what I'm going to do is click on add the device, and it will ask me the type of connection or the receiver that I want to use. I'm going to choose the Bolt receiver for this, and it's going to ask me to pretty much put the keyboard into a pairing mode. So what I'm simply going to do, because the keyboard's already on, I'm going to hold down the number 2 button for around 3 seconds. You can see right now on the keyboard that the number 2 light is pretty much blinking. That's telling us that the number 2 slot is ready to be paired. On the computer, what I can see right now is the MX Mechanical. I'll click on connect. And what it's going to ask me to do is type in these numbers to verify that this is the exact keyboard that I want to pair with this Bolt dongle. So I'll type that in. And if you type it incorrectly, it will ask you to try again. So that's something that's okay too. Now I have the option to set up this device or connect another device. Let's click on setup. Once you click on setup, what you're going to see is Meet MX Mechanical. This is going to walk you through the different steps and all the function of this keyboard. So for instance, I can click on forward now. It will show me that I have the mute and mute button. I have a dictation and an emoji button if I want to use that. Smart backlighting, there's all the different options that are available. I can turn the light on and off. I can choose the different backlighting effect. I can also customize this in the program as well. It has easy switching between different computers, obviously. So this is just kind of giving us a tour for what the program can do. You can customize the key now, and you can also, for instance, set your function key so that it does all the different functions that you can kind of see. You can hold down the function key and use F1, F2, so on and so forth. So now what I'm going to do is say you're all set and pretty much just finish the onboarding process. And from there, you're back to the different keys and all the different controls. So with this, we have just a very simple interface. It shows me the battery and the type of connection at the very bottom. Right now is telling me that it's connected via the Bolt dongle, which is really good. It has the key, and these are the keys that we can customize on the system. Now on the full-size mechanical keyboard, you can start customizing the key with F1, F2, F3, because on the full-size one, the computer selection is pretty much right here instead of over here on the mechanical mini. So that is a little difference between those two. Now let's say I want to change this so that it doesn't do brightness anymore. I can certainly do that, so I can just go through and do a global setting change. But if I want to add, for example, let's say a specific application. Let's say I want to add Photoshop. I'll click on that, click on confirm, and it will say device configured. So in this specific Photoshop app, I want this key, and what I can do is change it so that it's the default backlight down, or I can do a keyboard shortcut. So for example, if I want to do a new layer via merge, Command Option Shift E, I can just type that in, Command Option Shift E, and it will go right there. So when I'm in Photoshop, I just press F4 and it will automatically customize that. It will automatically run those keyboard shortcut commands. Granted, you can still do this with Photoshop Action, but I think that having the tactile key that you can just press right away and having it something universal like this you can transfer between the machine is really useful. Now, Photoshop may not necessarily be the best sample for this. I think Lightroom will be a better sample because Lightroom does not have those kind of macro, doesn't have the action like you have in Photoshop. So going to customize a key like this in Lightroom and being able to transfer these to multiple machines is really awesome. A couple other things you can do is you can change the different backlighting effects. So you can choose to have the backlighting on or off. You can select the different effect there, and you will see in the demo earlier that I've showed you that all these correspond to the way how the keyboard is reacting, whether you're typing or just in general the way how the lighting is really showing up on the backlight. Obviously, remember that when you have the backlight on, the battery life won't last quite as long. There's also easy switching, and this allows you to pretty much, as I mentioned before, control switching this between multiple machines. So number one, this is paired to my Mac Studio. This is paired to my MacBook Pro on number 2, and you can really see on which machine this is switched to. And this also has Logic Flow, which allows you to copy a file between one machine and paste it to another. On a Mac, it's not so much a big deal because there is something called continuity, but between a Mac and a PC, this makes it really cool. And lastly, there are all the settings. You can go in, update the firmware, and do all these things to your keyboard. So that is pretty much the Logi Option in a nutshell. It is a fairly powerful program, although what I'm showing you right now is really just skimming the surface of it. But like I said, I'll probably do a video demo with a more in-depth customization later on. As I mentioned before, both devices and unifying devices are not compatible with each other, so you can't use a unifying device with a Bolt dongle. This is something that is a little bit sad at the same time, however, is using a different frequency, so I totally understand. Now, this creates a dilemma for anyone who may just want to upgrade the keyboard and keep the mouse with the unifying dongle, or upgrade the mouse and keep the keyboard with the unifying dongle. Well, your option is to use two dongles on a machine, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And what Logitech is really doing here is kind of creating a scenario where you may want to go in and buy everything new, which is not necessarily the best way either, and that is not the option that I will recommend that you do unless you really want to do that. So don't get me wrong, I'm not encouraging you to spend any more money than what you really have to or what you really want to. So in order to get around that, you would either use two dongles, but if you don't want to do that, you either choose whether you want to use a unifying dongle or the Bolt dongle, and one of the other devices will have to be paired with the machine Bluetooth. And that would be the way to get around this. I wish there was a better unifying way to bring things together. However, this is not the case. A few bits about this as well is that the charging cable that comes with this is a USB-C to USB-A. I don't know when this is going to be a USB-C to USB-C. However, the charger is universal, and because this is not a data cable anyway, it really doesn't matter much. You can plug in any type of USB-C connection and expect this to work without any problems. I've also tried to move the dongle between different USB port on a singular machine. That works fine without any problems. You don't have to repair the device whatsoever. I move a dongle from one Mac to another Mac, it works just fine without any problems. And even on the other Mac that doesn't have the Logi Option or the Bolt software installed on it, it still functions. And I also have tried using the dongle that I paired on a Mac, moving it to a PC machine, and it works just fine as well without any software installed. So if you already paired the Bolt dongle to the keyboard and mouse, you can feel free to move that to any machine and it should function without any problems. And a few advice for you if you're trying to set up these keyboard and mouse on a Macintosh system that does not ship with a keyboard. My best recommendation is to pair a keyboard and mouse that you want to use with a dongle first before you plug in the machine, because if you're trying to set these up using Bluetooth, during the initial machine setup, it will not work. Now, if you've just got these devices and you just pull them out of the box, generally the dongle is going to be paired with the keyboard already, so that should function. However, because I have three of them, two keyboards and also a new mouse that comes with the Bolt dongle, each of them, I have been shuffling them all around, so I can't really keep track of them anymore, and I can't do that test faithfully at this point in time. But those are just things to remember about this. A few last things I want to mention about this is the charging cable is still USB-C to USB-A. I wish at some point this would go to USB-C to USB-C, but it really doesn't matter because it's only a charging cable. It's not a data cable, so you should be fine on that one. And at some point in time, I'm hoping that the dongle will be a USB-C as well, but we shall see when that comes along. Anyway, I hope that you find this video helpful. In my time just using these keyboards for the past few weeks, I really enjoy the MX Mechanical keyboard. I love the full-size one. I really like the brown tactile key much more than the red linear key. But ultimately, the key type and everything, this is really going to be up to you. But nonetheless, they are a really great keyboard in a really great package. It comes with a dongle and also a great software on the back end to support this. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments about this, leave them below. Give this a like, subscribe, and hit on the bell if you're new. And remember, in art we trust.